So I don't have graphics enabled. You can't see a person. I reassure you, this is my voice. And I have learned to edit myself so I don't just stutter and say innocuous things. That was one of my father's favorite words. You're innocuous, you're innocuous. So I attempt to not be innocuous. Who wants to be innocuous? I mean, irrelevancy is bad enough, but innocuancy is, could it be worse? Possibly. My father always admired the British drama shows like Masterpiece Theatre. We'd watch Alistair Cook. What in the world is going on there with Britain? I cannot stomach a British crime show where we're tracking down the killer, you know. Like there's these Islamic rapist gangs and you're just like not tracking them down. What? I mean, you all ought to be castrated and pilloried and then hung. All of yous there. All of yous there in the Scotland Guard. You have so dropped the ball. I mean, you dropped both of your balls a long time ago. How could you allow this to happen to Great Britain? Even Poirot was interested in finding the murderer. And you don't care. You don't care. What a bunch of wusses yuns are, as the West Virginians would have said back in the day. Yuns, you all. The West Virginians said yuns instead of you all. They said yuns. Yuns is just a bunch of wankers. That's what yuns is. Out, out, boop, 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 boop. What is going on with people? Being a governor of a state or a mayor. I live in the beautiful state of Ohio, and we have many Somali people. I have to say my experience mostly has been positive with Somali people. Like if you go to Walmart, there'd be a Somali girl working there and being very nice and friendly. It's all right, it's all good in the hood, like if I go to Columbus State Community College, there's like, I went to work for, you remember this, won't you? Boy, it hits me like a hammer, remember? Who's saying that? Huey Lewis in the News, it hits me like a hammer when you go to this place. And you realize that some people really hate you because you're white. However, I had a black supervisor who was really nice. She kind of reminded me of like a black Nancy. Remember Nancy the cartoon strip? Nancy the cartoon strip. She's like a black Nancy. She really was. And then you had the overseer, which was a white lady, and she was just a mean, horrible NGO sort of white liberal interloper. You might want to call her a carpetbagger. I mean, you could. I don't know what you could call her. Nothing I did was good enough. I was hired to do this position because I'm not a stupid person. I got like a 31 on my ACT back in the day on verbal, you have verbal, whatever. I'm not a stupid person. I'm not I have been undertrained with regard to mathematical things. That is true. This is true. But you realize when somebody throws you under the bus and says, you don't matter, get out of here. You start to read books like Jane Eyre and you think, yes, I do matter. And I do regret this, folks. I always have to have my disclaimer when I recommend Jane Eyre. And just as I read Gone with the Wind. I read that over and over again, just like I read Jane Eyre. There are some racist elements in there that makes me so sad. I wish I could erase those racist elements. We all do. We all do. And then, of course, you have Mr. Rochester and Wuthering Heights, Charlotte Bronte's sister, the gypsy, all that sort of like racial tension. I don't know anything about that because my dad, he was stationed in Puerto Rico, and I think he kind of fell in love with Puerto Rican women when he was stationed there. How you gonna get him back on the farm after they've seen Perry? He would used to sing those lyrics. And my mother sort of reminded him of like this Puerto Rican woman who just loved to dance and she didn't care about what anybody else said. She just wanted to have a good time. My father was attracted to my mother, even though my mother wasn't Puerto Rican, because he had been stationed in Puerto Rico when he was a young man. Unfortunately, it's not good to be a promiscuous person, whether you're Puerto Rican or you're not Puerto Rican. It doesn't bode well for society. Can I say that my mother recommended books for me I shouldn't have been reading? She recommended explicit books to me. You can imagine what explicit means. I'm not going to use the other term that usually accompanies explicit. I mean, why did she do that to me? Why did she say, well, you have to read this? And it's very healthy to have sexual fantasies. Even at a young age, I was encouraged to have sexual fantasies, even before I hit puberty. I'm sorry. Well, apparently, conduct in her own family had been inappropriate. Toward the younger girls, they were inappropriately approached by male relatives. That's all I know. So to this day, I do have difficulty. My husband can laugh at Austin Powers. I can go along with James Bond a little bit. And then when it gets to something really exploiting women, it really bothers me. Because I know it really happened to me when I was a little girl. My parents would send me out to anybody. You want to watch her for an hour? Go ahead, yeah. And there was just this horrible woman that made fun of my mother because my brother was born with a low birth weight. Like he had like a small head when he was born. 5.9 and 9.5 ounces, or something like that. But you see these people that have fetal alcohol syndrome. It's like they have these bags under their eyes, and they just have these. They just seem to be angry people, and that's what that lady was. And she had this dog named Denver. A dog named Denver. I don't know if it has to do with Colorado or not. Did they come from Colorado? Only the Lord Jesus knows. Yeah, he would know. And like these people are just so creepy. Like I'm not really sure, but I think her kids took me into the woods and they kind of like molested me a little bit, just kind of. And there was like a teenage girl presiding over it and a young boy about my age presiding over. Like I had to like do humiliating things in the forest for them, for their pleasure. And I told my parents, now this is what they're doing. Well, don't talk to them anymore. Don't. Why didn't you report them to the police? Because back in the day, you don't report anything. You don't say anything. In fact, I want to tell you this right now. After we had moved out of Lakewood, Ohio, which is in the vicinity, it's a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio, I had risked peril. Of course I had risked peril. Believe me, I had, not knowing what peril I had escaped in that vicinity, in that locality. So we moved to a trailer park. And it's not like the trailer park you're thinking of. It's like, well, people who just like to golf, and so they like to live in trailers. So it's like a clean trailer park. Well, we're just retirees, and we like to golf. Whatever. Whatever you will do to cover up your lack of finances, you can mask it as much as you want. But there would be this little boy going around like the trailer park, like they would have like roads it would be like a serpentine cul-de-sac. That's what a trailer park driveway is like. I don't want to say like a road system is like. And he would get little girls into his wagon, and the little girls would be under a blanket. And I said, I'm just a little girl. I'm like 5 years old or something. Like, can I come in? Oh, you're not old enough, the boy would say. You're not old enough. So I'd go back to my trailer park and get on the cable and watch G-Force. G-Force, crazy anime, G-Force. Whatever they've rebranded it these days. Who knows? No, folks, I really want to know because I graduated from high school in 1990. So I went to universities in the early 90s, do you understand? And people would have these bumper stickers, question authority. Of course, when Biden was in power and when the other person was in power, we couldn't question authority. Now all of a sudden, we're marching in the streets. Now this is very personal for me, and I'm going to bring this up only because it's very personal for me. It's personal, and it's terrible, and I'm just laying out the facts here for y'all. The lady who was shot by an ICE agent had her children taken away from her. Partly because her partner was burning cigarettes out on the children. And it brings back memories for me when we invited these people from Cleveland, Ohio down out to the Ohio country, like to Amish country, like have a nice time, let's just hang out, let's drink some beer, let's smoke some cigarettes, let's just party out in the yard at the A-frame. And I'm just a little girl, and I thought that my grandmother loved me. And a few times, I don't know how many times, I approached her and I said, Grandmother, I love you. Can I sit on your lap? Because I wasn't put to bed. I'm just frolicking free. And the woman, I don't know, like, how could it not be deliberate? She just sears my forearm with a cigarette. And in fact, my father complained. I remember him. There are a lot of things I don't remember from my childhood, but I remember this. My father said, why does your mother keep burning our daughter with cigarettes? she had mental issues. She must have had, because I thought she was such a nice person. And my mother and my aunt would say, oh, she's such a horrible, cold person. Well, I know that she burned, like, she just burned. I'm just a little girl, like, wanting to be friends with her, like, 3 or 4 years old. Like, can I be friends with you, Grandma? I know you like me so much. She's, like, sitting out there in the lawn chair, and she just, like, smiles at me with, like, this devilish grin and just sears me with a cigarette right in my right forearm. Now, homie, don't play that. Homie, don't play that. That's a person that needs some exorcism or something. I don't know. So, all these people harassing the ICE agents, I'm saying maybe they need some sort of, like, if Jonathan Kahn would not be silent, why don't you just start exorcising all these people? Not in a Jane Fonda way, like in a real exorcism way. You need to exorcise these people. Jonathan Kahn, where are you? Where are you? Hello, Jesus. Thank you. Amen.